would always sleep in their bed every single night. Like, he was, I mean, but I've heard that that's kind of just how Chihuahuas are. They are naturally, like, very bonding animals, so they just kind of usually pick one person in the family and really just stick to them only. It's endearing, but also obnoxious.
Are we already recording?
I just started it, yeah. Can you tell?
Oh, okay.
Did you hear my voice change?
Well, it was the way you were talking about the Chihuahua. I was like, something tells me we have started, which is I'm ready. I've got all my stuff pulled up.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to give us a second. But yeah, we started. It's time now. It's time to do it. You ready? You gonna say it? You gonna say what we're talking about? Are you gonna do it?
Oh my gosh, guys, I'm so excited. You know that this is always and forever. These episodes are, of course, usually suggested and pushed for by me. It's time for a movie review episode.
We're here again.
Yeah.
Woo! With another guest. Hey guys.
Yes, we have I suppose we could say a repeat guest. I believe we've had some small voice work done.
Yes, I have technically been on the podcast, I believe, for a total of like 20 seconds ranting about Poltergeist.
Yes. You have been filling in for where I would usually have put the goblin whenever I had it. But for now, you'll do.
For now, I will do. You will have to deal with me, and we'll all be super happy about it and sing Kumbaya at the end. It'll be great.
But yes, this is Fern.
Hello, it's me officially.
And Fern is just as much as of a weird, gory horror movie enthusiast as Aubrey is, so they have elected to show up for this one.
Hello, it's me. I'm very excited for this one, actually. I've been anxiously anticipating when we finally sat down to talk about this, so I'm very glad to be here.
Wrapped up in a blanket and ready to go.
I wanted to start doing this for a little bit, and I don't know if we'll do any more, but we'll see. But we are doing Saw 2, and I'm really excited because that's one of my favorite franchises, is the Saw franchise. I will say the most recent two movies, don't talk to me about them. Just don't.
Don't
but
talk
the rest
to
of
me
them
about the Saw movies if it's the most recent two.
It's just, for me, Jigsaw and Spiral, I don't think were well planned. I have not watched Spiral yet, I'll say that. I did see a couple clips that looked pretty okay, but I'm hesitant. But yeah, and I've always been pushing for Mason to watch the Saw movies as well, and that's also been a hard sell, I'll say.
You and everybody, trust me, it's been happening my entire life. My childhood friend, Blake, whatever you call him, just threes of people have been trying to make me watch this movie.
Threes of people. You can really see how the pressure started to kick in now that threes of people really wanted that.
It's really building, and now that I have Fern breathing down my neck about movies constantly, it's
fours of people, ferns of people, if you will.
Yeah, now that I have ferns of people, it's gotten to the point that I may as well just get this over with. So it's Saw 2. We're reviewing Saw 2. It's the second one. I know we didn't do the first one, but everyone's already seen that one and reviewed it, so we're good. We're on the second one now. It's the second one, guys.
Number 2.
So in this one, there are needles.
Yeah, there are needles. Do we want to talk about the needles first?
Yeah, well, I think we should talk about the needles first.
I want to go ahead and say trigger warning for just about everything blood and gore-wise. So if that's not your thing, for sure, skip over. But if you didn't realize that from reading Saw, then, you know.
You must really like power tools.
Yeah, so you were in the wrong place anyways. Well, should we talk about the traps in order, or are you feeling really...
Is this a traps focused review, or are we going to talk about the plot? You know, that there was.
Well, the real meat of any good Saw review is dissecting the traps. So
Oh, absolutely.
Project. get at it. Attack that microphone.
Understood. Assignment understood. Okay, so the real meat of any true Saw review is always going to be about the dissection of the traps and what the traps mean for each character. But I don't think that's all we need to talk about. There is some plot at play here, whether it is good plot or not.
It still exists.
we start to flesh out more of the Saw universe, more of Jigsaw John Kramer's identity, why he does what he does, because while they did flesh a little bit of Jigsaw out in the first movie, they didn't really give us a whole lot at the end. It's like the end was kind of the reveal.
Yeah,
and that
there
was
wasn't
it.
much to work with. It was kind of just a pulling the blindfold off, whereas in the second one it is a lot more tangible. Like, this is him, this is what he's doing. Let's deal with that together now.
Yes, and like I'll say, like plot-wise, I think there are other Saw movies that have better plot. I think once you get into like the Hoffman Strom cat and mouse game there, that starts to get a lot more interesting. But this kind of sets up like a framework for what we see in later Saw movies, where a lot of times there's a trap in the beginning that is usually a calling card of some kind for whoever the detective is.
Yes, we did have that.
Yeah, in this case it is Detective Eric Matthews.
Which, like, who's that? Who's that guy? I don't know who that was.
Oh, he's the main guy that we were following.
He's the guy we don't like.
Yeah, he's played by Donnie Wahlberg, I believe.
He's one of the Wahlberg brothers, not Mark, not the hate crime Wahlberg
Not
brother.
Marky Mark.
Not that one. This is a
But
different
they look
Wahlberg.
just alike, I'll say that.
They do. One's just like bald.
Yeah. No, I knew who you were talking about. I was just saying, like, that movie played out, and I don't even feel like I know who that guy was. But he was in a lot of it.
I will say the character development in this movie does feel a bit poor. It doesn't feel quite like we're supposed to care about any of the characters at hand, really. I mean, I know I personally leave that movie only caring more about Amanda and literally nobody else. But maybe that's just a me thing.
Did anyone else live?
I mean,
who all got out?
That's a really good question, and I think as we go through, we'll see.
Okay.
I don't think we have the full story here.
Well,
You're
I
right.
think we should start getting into the meat.
Well, you're right. I don't remember correctly. You gotta clue me back in the right way. Let's get to it. So how did we?
This movie starts with trap number 1, and it is specifically. I've got a lot of the facts we're going to be reading in this episode today are coming from the Saw Wiki, the Saw film franchise fan page. I find those are always the best places to go for these plot outlines.
Oh man.
So thanks to our friends over at fandom.com.
Yeah, I think I owe most of my life to fandom.com contributors and people who make lyric videos on YouTube.
It's great for games too.
Really the backbone of society, honestly.
I think so.
All right, so we've got Michael Marks, who is a police informant, and he wakes up in a spike-filled mask that's locked around his neck. Your classic Jigsaw videotape with Billy the Puppet comes on and informs him that he has 1 minute to retrieve the key from behind his right eye with a scalpel. Obviously, he doesn't do it because Jesus Christ, the pain, and to make yourself do that, you gotta turn off a lot of the emergency receptors in your brain that tell you no, don't do that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible in a perfectly healthy brain to make yourself do that. I don't know that there is a human being alive that could bring themselves to do that without some sort of chemical being off.
Not under 2 minutes, not under 1 minute. Like, how? I mean, obviously it is set up specifically to get someone killed, but like, Why even
Yeah.
bother? Why even bother making it a trap if you're gonna make it impossible, Jigsaw? Come on.
Well, I will say this isn't impossible. You could do it. It just take a lot of human will. And I think considering his line of work, which is going to be my next point, that like maybe maybe that's why Jigsaw is saying if you can bring yourself, he's a police informant. He is essentially ratting people out. And he's
Mhm.
ratting out people like pretending to be like I can't remember exactly how they see if I can bring this
Tell
up
me,
here.
I need to know.
They
What was he
describe.
ratting on?
Okay, Michael was a young man addicted to drugs.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all?
And
Thanks
so
for saying my joke, but louder.
he eventually became acquainted with Detective Eric Matthews, who's our homicide detective main character, and started working for him as an informant. So like he started ratting out his dealers, which not cool, dog. Like that's
Whoa,
not cool.
bro.
That's not in the bro
What?
code.
He was a snitch.
Like
That's all I can say.
that's against drug dealer customer policy. I'm
You know
pretty
what they
sure.
say.
I don't know if they've got those, but I would say that that's in violation of some kind of social code.
Well,
So I think that was Jigsaw's point is he's like, like you not only are you addicted to drugs, but now you're selling out all these people, but you're still using. I guess I don't know. Like I think it's also just it's interesting. It is for sure interesting
I think maybe
because I think
it might be like kind of a metaphor for his hypocrisy because he's ratting out all
yeah
these people for doing the exact same things that we're doing. So this might just be a nod to eye for an eye.
Yeah. I will say this is definitely on the
Oof.
lesser end of like showing somebody the error of their ways. Like this for me is up there with the guy that was like cutting himself. I'm like, was this the necessary action for this one? Maybe
Right.
not.
It does feel a bit drastic.
Like,
Just
maybe
a
he didn't need this.
skosh.
Maybe there was somebody who needed your help a little more, Jigsaw. But I see the train of thought. So once we've got our Spike head encapsulated poor dead Marky or Michael
Basically,
Marks, sorry,
an Iron
not
Maiden
Marky.
face.
Uh, then we get our detectives finding his body, and he's got a mark from the Jigsaw killer. Eric
Yep.
Eric kind of doesn't want to be involved in the investigation, but then Detective Carey quickly points out on the wall that Jigsaw did this to get his attention because we've got a message. What was it? Detective
Look
Matthews.
closer, Detective Matthews, I believe.
Yeah.
By the way, gotta love that for character motivations that our main character was like, nah, dude, I don't want to fucking deal with this. But then everyone was like, no, dude, it's got your name on it. You have to. He's like, ah, shit. Okay.
Oh, well, if it's got my name.
I'll look closer. So what does he see? YN. I looked closer. What does he see?
YN.
I clicked Y. What happens next in my adventure, Aubrey? What does he see?
Turn to page 42.
There's nothing to see right then and there. But they do take the tape, and I believe the tape is how they end up locating Jigsaw's hideout, which is the abandoned Wilson steel plant. It's always an abandoned building. I don't know why they're not keeping tabs on these abandoned buildings when they know that a serial killer is always using them. So
Too many
maybe you
of
should
them.
be having some guys on that.
Too many abandoned buildings. Everything's going out of sale.
So we've got Detective Eric Matthews, Detective Allison Carey, and Sergeant Daniel Rigg raiding with a SWAT team at the Wilson Steel Plant. And this is when we encounter what I would like to say is trap number 2.
Oh.
I consider this a trap because Billy does come out of the works for this. It's just one of the like little mini traps, like quite literally like a tripwire trap.
Oh yeah. Oh, I hate
Um,
that. I hated that
they
trap.
walk into the steel caged stairway, and as soon as they get in there, Billy the puppet appears at the top of the stairwell and does his creepy little laugh. And as he does so, the metal door shut, and this like board comes out from the stairs and just like cracks their shins in half.
Oh my
So
god,
needless to
yeah.
say, they lose a couple SWAT team members trying to get up into the building. But everybody else seems to be a-okay.
Aubrey, did you take notes? How do you have such a play-by-play right now?
Fandom.com.
Oh,
Oh,
even that is actually not on the fandom.com plot outline. I just
Really?
remembered that happened because I've seen these movies at least 6 times each one through.
Aubrey is using the website as a crutch.
I
She actually knows more than them.
She probably does, honestly.
I'm not gonna lie, I did have a phase where I was very obsessed with horror movies, and Saw was definitely like top dog for a long time.
Oh man.
And kinda maybe still is, not sure.
Aubrey, you would have scared the shit out of me in high school, middle school, junior high.
It's funny because I don't think I scared anybody in high school.
Right?
I think I like to think I did, but like honestly, you
Honestly,
say
who
a word in my
doesn't?
direction, I'd cry.
Yeah, who doesn't like to think that they have like intimidating bad bitch energy, but is actually just not that at all?
Well, I mean, we all kind of need that a little bit in
Yeah,
high school.
like I'll be honest, not a
Everybody
damn person I
sucks.
went to high school with had bad bitch energy.
Right? Like we were
I'll put
16.
all on record say that.
Yeah, but at your school, you guys all had uniforms, and they were very
Not
very
really. Not really.
okay.
Not in high school.
Making assumptions.
No, just misremembering.
We had a little more freedom than your standard dress code. Like we got more of like a just kind of church attire dress code.
Nice. So we were allowed to wear church clothes.
You had to wear your church pants.
Your Sunday best.
Yeah, I think that's how they described it. Is they were like, well, if you couldn't wear it to church, don't wear it to school. So I don't know. Anyways, derailing. Um.
Enough digging into that history.
So
Continue.
once they finally get up in there and find John, he's obviously a weak, frail old man because he has cancer. Um.
Uh-oh.
But don't worry, they're still being just as rough with him as they would anybody else.
Of course, beat him the fuck up.
Which, I'm not gonna lie, yes, he's murdered tons of people. But also, oh my god, how are you beating up an old man with cancer?
Right? Like, what's he
You
gonna do
know?
to you? He can't fight back. You don't need that brute force.
You say, what's he gonna do to you? And he did just, like, crack the shins of, like, 3 of the SWAT officers.
Yeah, he do be making
Not, like, with his bare
trappies,
hands,
though.
but he did have those straps,
He
yeah.
could have another trappy up his sleevey. He do be making a trap.
They find out
I
pretty
make it a
quickly,
trap.
though, that he was already prepared for them to come find him. I mean, obviously he left that note for Detective Matthews. He wanted them to come here. Specifically Detective Matthews.
I wanted you to come here. That's what he said.
It quickly reveals like a cage full of monitors. And on the monitors, there are 8 people trapped in a house, specifically including Daniel Matthews, Detective Matthews' son. I think it's his only son, and also him and his wife share custody. I think he just gets them on the weekends, right?
Splitsville.
Yeah, and they don't have a good relationship. Like they showed us that kind of in the beginning of the movies. They're not having a good relationship because his son's always getting in trouble.
Oh my god.
What's
Always
interesting
getting in
to
trouble.
note is later they do find out all 8 people that are in this house that are trapped there are all in some way related to Detective Matthews. His son being his son, but the other 7 being people that he's arrested.
Oh.
So, not a good place for his son to be.
Oh.
Yeah,
But this is a great place for Jigsaw to be, because obviously they can't kill the old man if they can't find the house with all these people in it, because the people have all been breathing in a deadly nerve agent, and they'll die
Oh,
if they're not found in time because the antidote, they got to find the antidote.
And do we remember exactly how long they had in the house to do all of this? Like, how long did it take for the nerve agent to kill the first person?
So, okay, while trapped there, they breathe in a deadly nerve agent and have 2 hours to find the syringes with the antidotes hidden around the house.
oh my
John
God.
assures Eric that he will see his son again safe and secure if he agrees to talk with him alone for until the 2 hours are over.
I see.
And
Damn, I need Fern on here more often just to test you on your knowledge. You're just facts of the film. This is great. Really
Detective
got...
Matthews does agree to this, and the police just arrive and just kind of monitor the situation and the cameras as things are happening, which moves us to the house and that whole situation.
Okay, yeah, Let's get into that whole situation. Oh,
So,
death.
who wants to start with room number 1?
I don't.
Which I would say room number 1 is technically trap number 3. It like I would say like the first room as well as the whole house counts as like the first trap because like the nerve agent, that's when they learn about that, but then also the door to the room being locked at first.
I don't know. Was his like dick locked in it? I don't remember right now.
I am pulling up the fandom.com right now so we can scan through that.
Yo, is there any Saw movie where their dick get cut off? Will we get to one where they do that? I'm getting a no answer.
There's a thing with nipples, but there's not I don't think there's a thing. Okay,
nipples
you know, I'm gonna need to open a
worse.
private browser to Google this because I don't want that in my history.
Okay, the first room is the gun through the door, right?
Oh, yeah, it is the gun through the door.
No, there is.
There's another
Yeah,
one?
there isn't one. I will say there is a trap in which somebody who is a rapist has to like I believe blind themselves. And that would have probably been a good opportunity to have someone have to be castrated, not to be vulgar, but
right, like I feel like that very easily could have jumped into castrate yourself.
yeah, when I Googled to see is there a saw trap with a penis, like first thing was a Reddit post where somebody was like, I feel like that one he should have had to castrate himself instead of blind himself. And I was like, yeah, pop off, sis.
Period, queen. Boots the house down. Kitty kitty purr.
Shut the fuck up.
Slay, mama.
Oh my god.
So our 8 victims wake up in this first room, and they're all kind of just shooting this shit for a minute, freaking out, until Amanda, who is one of the 8 people, wakes up. Amanda is in the first movie. She was the victim of the reverse bear trap who made it out but had to kill her boyfriend in the process. She is actually working with Jigsaw. It was very brief. It was when they were showing like how people knew Jigsaw, like they showed her talking to like the detectives and her story.
If you remember when they're investigating the doctor at first in the beginning, they like talk about Amanda, and I think they bring her in.
Yes, they do, because she tells her story. It's like from her words.
Yeah.
So it's like very chilling to hear her like say a lot of that stuff.
Do you need me to like look up a picture of the reverse bear trap? Or...
And then
yes, please do. That's because that's one of the most infamous Saw traps.
Who Amanda is.
So I mean, whoever she is, she
and it
really
is
elects
the
herself.
reverse bear trap itself is reused later in the franchise.
Yes, it is. Do you remember this? And then it like splits open.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Amanda. That's the girl that had to deal with that.
Yeah, your mouth is connected to it, right?
Yeah, and it would split her jaw if it was on her face when it opened.
Pretty much completely rip open.
And that's why she has the scars on her face as well, is because she almost didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
Owie.
So, Amanda being in the house, when she wakes up, she starts freaking out and she finds the audio tape in the wall from Jigsaw, which tells everybody about the gas and the antidotes, and lets them know the first antidote's locked in the safe in the room where you guys all are now. There's a combination and it's in the back of your minds, and the correct order is over the rainbow. Um, Besides the tape, they also find a key and a warning message which tells them not to use the key to open the room's door. Xavier, however, refuses to heed the warning and uses the key, causing Gus to get shot by the booby trap connected to the lock. So everybody kind of just like chaos ensues, as the way it does when you throw people into an emergency situation and no one knows how to handle themselves and you have three guys who want to be leader. Um,
Yeah.
Once they put that key in the lock, Gus's eyes like up to the eye hole. I don't know what he thought he was gonna see through the peephole. Why he thought that was a good idea to do that while they're trying to open the door.
Yeah, that definitely should have been a before we attempt door opening plan.
Yeah,
I don't know. He just really needed to
it
make
just
sure he was
makes
sticking it in the right way. I don't know.
it's just interesting because I want to know like who was he supposed to be,
Yeah.
because we don't get like any information about him. So looking at his little profile page on the wiki here, it says Gus went to college and then became a businessman.
Good for
And then
him.
he, as working as a manager, was involved in a crime investigated by Detective Matthews. Okay, so that's how he's related. And Detective Matthews, we should also mention, is kind of a corrupt detective. So while some of these people are guilty of crimes, most of them are guilty of crimes, they're probably not guilty of whatever they were arrested for.
So wow, these people that are being subjected to these death games didn't even really do anything then, did they?
The thing was is they probably got caught or were known for doing these things already, so they were easy targets. I don't
Yeah.
know if they were legitimately. That's what I'm gonna look for here right now.
I'm pretty sure I've read somewhere that they were legitimate criminals. However, the things that they were
Oh,
put in jail for were cases where Detective Matthews had planted evidence or had bribed
Oh.
somebody to be a witness, things
he is
like that.
actually also. This is fun fact. Fern will know about this, but Mason, this is gonna confuse you. But for those who have seen all of the Saw movies, um, the Homeward Bound clinic that Jigsaw's wife Jill Tuck ran, a lot of Jigsaw's victims came from there, so a lot of these people are also tied back to that as well. Gus, when he was released, because he was innocent, Eric wrongfully incriminated him, faking evidence, so he had to go to prison. But when he was released from prison, he went to the recovery clinic for drug addicts, and he actually is the guy that fights with Cecil in the scene where John like separates them fighting.
Oh, very
Um,
nice, very nice.
What the fuck?
I've seen a lot of the people having little scenes where they're in the clinic and things like that, and I'm like, interesting. All of these little things tying back. So I don't know. I guess his crime is addiction as well.
Yeah, that's the thing
Um,
is I can really get behind Jigsaw's idea and big plan here. I really respect a gray area villain, quote unquote, that is doing things for the greater good in the wrong way. I really like that in a character.
Vigilanteism.
Yes. However, some of the things that Jigsaw chooses to punish are so freaking funny to me.
oh, interesting. So I always thought that the razor box trap upstairs was supposed to be for Amanda because
Yeah.
she self-harms, but it turns out the Razorbox trap was actually supposed to be for Gus. According to an early script, the Razorbox was designed to punish the hands that had harmed innocent others when his anger had reached its peak, suggesting that maybe he had been abusive towards people while he was mad. But
Mm.
another version of his instruction tape alluded to him reaching his hand into the cookie jar for money, indicating that Gus was guilty of embezzlement or theft.
Oh, See, I like that.
So that is, both of those are really good to me. That like
Huh.
that's really fascinating. And that's why I like Saw so much, is the way these traps are and the sick twistedness of them.
I think this
Dark
movie.
justice.
They kind of all remind me of those old German cartoons, like the really creepy ones of like children being like hurt for various weird like sins that they committed.
I want to know what you're talking about, but honestly, just the vague nature of German cartoons where children gets hurt is much more appetizing to me than knowing what you're talking about. So please don't
Don't
explain to
explain.
me.
No, I won't.
Yeah.
You don't get to know.
Thank you.
No, I agree.
I like that ominous vibe that's got going there.
You have to wait another year or two before I show you what's in the hot.
Good lord, I wish you could see the facial expression I just got. Anyway, something I wanted to mention. What I do really like about this movie is I will say that Saw 2 is not one of my favorites in the franchise by any stretch of the imagination. However, what I really like about this movie in particular is the misdirection of the traps. So Xavier causes Gus's death by ignoring the warning and opening the door. And you have, I don't remember her name, but you have that character who does put her hand in the razor trap and it's not meant for her. And you have the character that throws Amanda in the needles when that pit was meant for him. You have all this misdirection of the traps, and I really like that.
Yeah, like, because, and you do see that later in other movies, and I think it's utilized better in movies like Saw 5. It's utilized really, really well there. I think Saw 5? Is it Saw? The one where it's,
Which one's
yeah,
5? Is
so
5 the
it's,
one with the, like, insurance company?
yes, because it's 5 people.
Gotcha.
I do like the idea that of including this like extra layer of thought that the people triggered traps that weren't even meant for them. Something that kind of gets to me with stuff like this is like almost like the perfect masterminding nature, in the way that they assume that the antagonist just knows how everything's going to play out in a lot of situations like this. I actually kind of thought Saw was one of those film series, but like I didn't know that they it's not perfect. Like they don't exactly trigger it the same way that it was originally planned to be set, like that it was originally set up, like it plays
And
out.
that's
Well,
I think that's something that you have to take into consideration when you abduct these people and build traps for them, is you have to know that it's not always going to work out the way you want.
right, these
Like,
people have no
sometimes,
idea that they're being punished at this point. They don't know that specific traps are for them and that they're trying to be taught a lesson. You know, they're just here and they're upset and they think they're being tortured.
I mean, they sort of know that they're being, not like, they sort of know that they're being punished. Like, they know that they all have something in common and they're all here for a reason that's probably not good, and also they're dying currently because they know about the poison. So everybody's panicked, which I think makes people act irrationally.
Right, rather than being inclined to sit down and follow the rules.
Yeah, not reading the instructions because you're flustered is something we all do.
God, don't let any of these people play an escape room though. Holy shit.
I mean, that's what they're doing.
They're doing
So,
it badly.
after we have our first room, and our first of 8 is dead, Gus, everybody kind of makes their way through the house and checks everything out a little bit, going down into the basement where we find our second trap in the house and our fourth trap overall. This one is the, like, I'd call it like the flame chamber or the furnace.
The furnace, yes.
Flamer.
Okay, thank you for your input.
This trap is for Obi.
I believe it's Abby, but I want it to be Obi really bad.
Yeah. So Abby is actually kind of interesting. Abby, he actually has a very short little spurt for him. Uh, he was a man who tended to lie to the people around him, defrauding them for the sake of his own goals. However, at one point, he was innocently framed and arrested by Detective Matthews for a crime he didn't commit after Matthews faked evidence in his case. Abi was quickly released from prison. However, his dishonesty towards other people ultimately and his connection to Eric Matthews made him the target of John Kramer. Because like here's the thing, like yeah, Abi went to prison for a crime he didn't commit, but that didn't make him stop doing crime. Like he continued to do a lot of bad stuff. Uh, and Jigsaw mentions when his trap tape happens that he abducted a lot of the people that are here because Jigsaw couldn't do it all on his own, so he hired someone else to do it, and that person was Abi.
Oh, I think I missed that the first time through.
Wow, way to go.
Yeah, it's in the tape, and that's everybody immediately gets really frustrated with him, and they're like, "What the fuck?" And the blonde girl Laura goes, "I remember you. You're the last thing I remember. You're the guy that abducted me."
Yeah, you don't
Like,
remember this?
Shit. Holy fuck, he's the guy that abducted us. I
yeah.
remember his face.
Yeah, because she was in her car and he popped out from the
So,
back seat.
In
Always
order
check
to
your back
redeem
seat.
himself, he has to crawl into this large furnace. There's 2 syringes with antidotes inside. One for him, and then another for a prisoner of his choice because he helped with the abductions. But upon the tape being read, Laura being like, you abducted me, the group is like really pissed. And Obi's like, no, I did what I had to do. So Xavier starts like threatening to kill him. And Abi's like, no, 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 I'll go get the antidotes. Like, I'll go get them. They
And then he
also
got
seem to
him.
think that Abi would know how to get in and or get out, and I'm like, don't you think if he knew how to get out, he would have left already?
Yeah, right?
They are very rude to him about him not getting out.
Yeah.
Boy would have taken that exit a minute ago.
So this is interesting because this trap, I'm not really sure how it works or how it would have worked. Like I think maybe he could have grabbed one syringe and been fine. I think maybe grabbing 2 syringes was greedy and that's what caused because this trap doesn't seem to be a super complicated one. When Abi gets in, he grabs the first syringe, totally fine, crawls further in and grabs the second antidote, which is attached to a chain. The oven's door closes at that point, and the oven is activated. He tries to like kick and scream and tries to get out of the furnace.
God, the rudest thing about this situation too is that the fire comes out of the like this is a long tunnel he is in. The fire just so happens to only be spouting out of the freaking front, like right where he has to get out. It's so mean. Like the fire, he has so much space to just burn there in the heat without being in the fire. But for some reason, the place where it spouts out of is of course where he has to leave through.
So it says that it says here
awful.
that as he's trying to like kick and scream and fight his way out, he spots a valve next to the door. Next to the valve is a red devil pointing at the valve and like, being like twist it to turn off the fire. So therefore Obi realizes in that last moment before he dies that by Jigsaw saying, once you're in hell, only the devil can help you out, you can maybe twist the. I guess that would have been the way to do it, but he would have had to probably burn himself a little bit to do it. But okay, that answers my question a little bit.
Of how he could have actually gotten them both. Yeah. Sadly though, he panicked and just tried to fucking claw his way out the entrance instead of looking around. But that's what happens when people...
And everyone has to watch while it happens.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the secondhand embarrassment of just, like, watching somebody burn in a furnace? Like, what do you do? Do you just, like, scream? Like, what do you do?
I guess.
What do you do in that situation?
I mean, some of the people kicked the door open, but he still didn't make it all the way out. I don't know.
Like, he didn't. And then if you're one of the people that kicked, like, do you feel stupid after being like, "Oh, I kicked that door and nothing happened." I bet everybody thinks I'm weak. I don't know. I get embarrassed when I put on sunglasses outside, so like, don't listen to me.
Outside, that's when you need to have them on.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's vulnerable. I'm admitting to the world that the sun is too bright for me, and I'm too weak to take on the sun alone. You know?
Well,
Too weak to kick the furnace door.
well, it's from that logic, I feel like I am then stronger that I'm willing to admit that the sun is too strong for me.
You find bravery in your vulnerability, and that's how we differ, I suppose.
I guess so. I think Saw probably made a trap for that. So yeah, he died by burning. But they still managed. How many antidotes did they manage to scrummy off of his dead body?
I
don't believe any. Right?
Yeah, they didn't get both antidotes burned inside because like the only part of Abby that got out of the safe was like they kind of broke the back window, but he could only get like his head and like a little bit of his shoulders out. Which is important that his head didn't burn because they all have numbers tattooed on the back of their necks.
Yes, which I believe was already mentioned beforehand.
Yes, we mentioned that the combination to the safe is in the back of their minds and the order is somewhere over the rainbow, meaning, color-coded order. So that's, I think, why they had Obi escape a little bit so that they could, not have his body completely incinerated.
Yeah, that would absolutely suck. But that would be such a Saw thing to happen, is to get all of the numbers and then go back to find Abby's body, but it's so horribly burned you can't read the last number.
Oh, yeah, I also stand corrected about the staircase. The staircase in the beginning, the chain link cage around it was also electrified.
Ooh.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
I
adds another layer to that.
Like climb up it, I suppose, to avoid the board breaking their shins.
Sorta.
Just to really just rubbing salt in the wound. Like the electrified fence just doesn't seem necessary. Like how could they have used that for their benefit?
I have no idea.
Maybe he just likes to shock people. People got kinks. I feel a very, very dissenting sigh coming in my direction. Let's move on.
I am actively kink shaming.
We are on to trap number 5. A needle pit.
Not really much of a trap. It's just like a big old pit full of needles.
I suppose. I mean, but, trap is used more in a conceptual sense than it is.
Well, it is. I mean, it is a trap in the way that, like, if he wants to live, he has to find the key.
It's a biohazard.
So he can get his antidote.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have no idea where these needles came from. Like, these could be all straight out the Walgreens, but these could all be, like, found on the streets. Like, you don't know.
They look like they're found on the streets, so I would assume so. So this trap is designed for our boy Xavier Chavez. Xavier Chavez is an aggressive and ruthless man who earns his living as a drug dealer. At one point he gets innocently. So all of these people are innocently framed. They've all done crimes. Definitely done bad stuff that they deserve to be punished for, but all the things they were arrested for, they didn't do. So that's very fascinating to me.
For their shit.
He was imprisoned and then released later. He was eventually targeted by John because of his drug dealing. So this needle pit, the victim ends up being Amanda of this trap. She doesn't die, but she ends up having to do the trap because Xavier's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Would you guys like to take a gander at explaining this trap, or?
He like pushed her in, and she just had to like dig through the needles to find a key, right?
Yeah, if you don't want to add any pizzazz to the story.
I don't like
for
needles,
sure.
so yeah, I'd prefer not to personally. But if you wanna, I'll just plug up my ear over here. Go ahead.
But okay, so Amanda is shoved very hard into this pit of open needles, trying to find essentially a needle in a haystack, which is this key. And as she's digging through these needles, she's getting stuck by all of them, and her arms, her hands, all over her body, being stabbed with these dirty needles. Who knows what is on them? Could be any number of transmittable diseases. Please don't share your needles, kids. And so she does eventually find the key, but she is very, very shell-shocked after this. Amanda is not having a good time at all. She's shaking in the fetal position, I'm pretty sure.
I will also say the interesting thing is Jigsaw directly says in the tape though that like this is for Xavier and it's so that he can suffer like he makes other people suffer. To say, quote, "The price that you must pay is for you to crawl into the same pit of squalor that you force your customers into." End quote.
Yikes.
And I'm like, yeah, no, but that's what you deserve. Like you're actively selling people heroin and that's killing people. Like hands down, that kills people.
Yeah.
So that's something that it's like you shouldn't. Like I'm gonna have to agree with Jigsaw on that one. Crawl into a pit of dirty needles if you're, peddling heroin to people who, are already out of their luck. So, obviously Xavier doesn't do the right thing and makes Amanda do it. And I've seen some cool behind the scenes footage for this one. The way they filmed it, the pits with the needles had some clear like glass on the sides so they could get some cool shots of Amanda digging through them. But they realized it was going to be really hard to do fake needles. So they bought all these real needles and they had to replace every single needle tip with a rubber one.
Oh my god.
So it took them forever because there are like thousands upon thousands upon thousands.
Yeah,
in,
I have actually seen
pits.
the behind the scenes that you're talking about, and it really is painstaking what they must have done to replace all those needle tips.
Not to mention the needles
Lord.
sticking out of her. Those are so well done.
Oh yeah, they look incredible. I will
Couldn't
definitely
tell
give
you.
them
Didn't
props.
look at that part. Could not bring myself to it.
Understandable. I think I have a hard time with eye horror, so like the first trap is pretty difficult for me, but that needle pit, there's something about it that just gets under my skin.
Needle pit.
Yeah, so they don't get it in time.
Lame.
So they don't get the antidote, which is a bummer. It says that the key was attached to a glow stick plugged in one of the countless syringes in the pit. So who knows? Who knows where it would have been and how long it would have taken them to find it. Maybe if they'd worked as a team, they could have found it. But honestly, I'm going to say I would not dive into a needle pit for Xavier.
I feel like
definitely wouldn't. He's not a team player.
I feel like there had to have been some kind of bucket around that house that they could have just scooped needles into and like tossed
Also,
on the floor
man,
and looked through, but we're not all thinking that quickly.
Wouldn't you fucking love to be the person to dig through all those needles and then be like, no, you didn't win, actually. You did that for no reason.
Yeah, Amanda is chronically fucked over here.
Oh, yeah.
God, yeah.
And then this leads us to like our last trap that's in the house, which is the razor box. And as I stated before, this one was for Gus, apparently. But the victim ended up being Addison, which was the name of the long-haired, dark-haired chick. Yeah, I don't think they ever say her name. Like, I think they might say like once or twice, but I was like, I don't even know her name, and I've seen this movie how many times?
That's rough.
She just kind of fades into the background, which is sad because I think they could have done some other stuff with her character because I want to know about her character.
It's
So
really a
I'm
different era of filmmaking, though. Like, I could, like, every single character that exists in a main group of cast, like, needs their own, like, 5 to 10 minute backstory moment. Like, I feel like everyone gets their own introduction period, like a superhero film nowadays.
Well, I think that's also pretty typical of movies that are made to show audiences gore, is we don't really need a backstory because we're about to watch something brutal happen to them. So who cares?
Fair, but, I mean, isn't it also... Excuse me. So isn't it also something to the audience, though, if you endear the character first before you brutalize them?
Absolutely, 100%.
But Saw's thing is brutalizing them and then endearing them.
Right. You're not supposed to care about them at first because they start out as quote-unquote bad people who need some sort of rehabilitation. So if they don't pass their test that they have, then they're not worthy. They don't get a character arc.
Right.
But I think there's also something to be said about, like, not every movie needs to be a beautiful, fleshed out piece of art to be good, I guess. I think there's a lot of, if a movie entertains you, I think it's done its job. Like the Final Destination movies. Like, are they top-notch, character-driven, beautiful cinematography, incredible plot lines? No. But are they good fucking movies? Hell yeah, they are. They're incredible.
Yeah, I gotta get to those too, but I guess we're doing this one first.
Well, so we've got our last one, Razorbox, and Addison here. She was a prostitute, also innocently framed by Detective Matthews. But she has a backstory that also goes back to the Homeward Bound clinic. And the night that I believe it's the night that Jill loses her child, she tries to solicit sex from John in his car. And John rejects her offer and tells her to go home because she's a beautiful girl who shouldn't do this kind of work, which is very sweet of him to say that. So see, he gave her a chance to stop.
A chance.
Yeah. So she reaches her hands in the glass box, and as soon as she does, it's almost like the raccoon trap, but for humans. So instead of a shiny piece of metal, it's an antidote to the deadly disease you have inside.
Oh yeah, like it's got like that weird like folding in nature, like when it goes in, like when you try to pull out, it just folds up in on you, but instead of being a metal cage, it's razor blades.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so it cuts her arms. And then when she has, what I've always had beef about is she has one arm in the box and she is aware that she cannot get her arm out and that the razor blades are cutting her.
And she puts her other one in the box.
Instead of perhaps putting her other hand partway through where her first hand is to open up the blades to possibly remove her hand, she just jams that other arm right on in there and says, "Give me antidote."
Yes, give me both.
Yeah.
She said,
and
that
it's
looks
like,
fun,
girl,
let's do both.
It's not the way to go, sis.
Was quite the way to go, sis.
Boots the house down, the sleigh kitty, mama purr.
She died. It killed her. The trap.
Sadly, she doesn't have a lot of other backstory, and I was kind of hoping she would, because I was like, I don't know a lot about her. But
do we see her death on screen, or is it just like, she's fucked, let's go elsewhere? I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
Because if her death is not on screen, it's implied that she is stuck there and
Oh, see,
bleeds out
interesting.
or
This
dies
description of the
thirst
razor
or
box also
or
says
no,
since
the
she
nerve gas.
didn't play the tape, it could have also been intended for Amanda Young. So, I mean, that could have also been the case since they never decided to say.
That is interesting. I love that we just can't even. This lady didn't even have a name, and we can't even remember if she died on screen. Poor lady.
Poor gal. She deserved better.
Poor thing. I'm so sorry. I'll try to remember the next one more. God, we got so many more people to watch die. I'm not ready for this.
So, eventually, going back to what's happening with our buddy Jigsaw and the detective that sucks and framed all these people. Eventually, somehow, Jigsaw coerces him into driving him to the house, because the detective tries to beat the shit out of him, and again, beating the shit out of an old man with cancer, not cool. Not
They
cool.
really beating the shit out of this old man.
Especially when he's on death's door like that.
Yeah, you really lose brownie points with me. Like, if you're gonna be a cop, but then you're gonna be a cop that beats old men with cancer.
Right, and
We
so
got
as they're
issues,
having that
Detective Young.
Wait,
conversation,
he was hitting the old
tensions.
man with cancer?
Yeah. So
What the
tensions are
Did you
rising in the
watch
house
this
at the
movie?
same time.
No, physically, like a physical bar of cancer.
No,
He
no.
took it and was smacking.
It's
him
not
with
like the
it.
cancer ray from Harley Quinn.
Aww.
If you haven't seen the cancer ray clip from Harley Quinn, I highly recommend checking it out. It's a good little chuckle.
I have not seen it, so perhaps I will have to do some homework.
Yeah. So the tensions are rising back at the house while John and Cop guy,
Cop
guy?
Cock!
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody else got to
John
say
and
it.
Cop guy are beating each other up. Tensions are rising at the house. And eventually Xavier just kind of goes ape shit. And he eventually figures out this whole number thing. So he's running around trying to figure out everybody's numbers.
The numbers, Mason. What do they mean?
No, I don't know.
As he's hunting down the others, he kills Jonas, who is one of the characters that was in the house.
And if it's not obvious enough, it is so easy to get the numbers off the back of these people's necks without resorting to murder.
Right.
Yeah.
You could just get it from them and leave.
Right.
So the only other 3 living people besides Xavier at this point are Amanda, Daniel, and Laura. And Laura's not doing well. Laura is on death's door. She's coughing up blood like she got consumption. So she's starting to pass out. Not going well. Oh, 1 second. Let me see. Yeah. So she eventually collapses and succumbs to the nerve agent poison. And then it's just Amanda and Daniel running around. Amanda, so before Addison dies, all of this is happening, the glass box doesn't happen until after this, but Amanda and Addison find the picture of Daniel and his dad together, and so they're like, ooh, don't trust him. But then Addison goes off and dies, so then eventually Amanda and Daniel reunite after that.
I also like how Daniel is a 14-ish year old boy who has nothing to do with his father's career and likely probably knows nothing about it.
Right, he's committing juvenile crimes.
Right.
He doesn't need to be punished.
And
but it's more his dad's punishment.
Well, everyone in this house is like, oh, that's your dad? We fucking hate you. Damn. This kid's just trying to worry about his bar mitzvah.
Yo, the kid
exactly
fucking gets the criminals. He's doing the crimes too. They should be like, yo, fuck yeah, we hate your dad too.
Yeah, this kid also hates his dad. Why don't they just commiserate?
You guys asked earlier if we saw Addison die?
Yes.
You asked earlier if we saw Addison die. and we did not. But there is a scene in which Xavier goes back and gets her number while she's still stuck in those razor blades and doesn't help her.
Oh my god.
Very good
Like
man.
literally just
Good
leaves her
guy
to die
here.
after reading her number.
Xavier is really truly passing this test, huh?
So I'm gonna quick try to wrap the last little bits up because I feel like the last bits aren't really important. They're just kind of little tiny plot points. Amanda and Daniel eventually return to the first room, climb down this like stairwell, and they go down this tunnel which leads them to the bathroom from the first film. Eventually, Daniel passes out. Amanda points out Xavier, hey, you can't read your own number unless you get our help. And so Xavier, in turn, decides to cut off the number from his back.
Which, by the way, I thought was some
Daniel
big moment that, like, a dude fucking, like, had to do it because he was forced to by the game or something like that when I heard about this shit as a kid. I didn't know that it was just some fucking himbo being pissed off that he was an asshole.
Yeah,
like,
he's just like, oh, this little girl's gonna tell me what to do. No, I'm gonna cut off my own skin, you little bitch.
I had no clue it was spite.
I'll show you.
Are you really telling me that there's not a bathroom mirror in there that you can, like, break and then hold, like, mirror up to mirror to see the back of your neck? Like, you really have to tear your skin off first chance you get.
Right.
We're not gonna look around for a mirror at all.
So while he's cutting off his neck number, Daniel wakes up and slashes his throat with a hacksaw. So that kind of concludes things at the house. Then as our detective is taking Jigsaw to the supposed house, the cops are trying to pinpoint the house location. Once they get to this house location that they think they're at, they realize, oh my god, we've been watching a recording the whole time. This has not been happening in real time. We've been played. Holy shit.
1111 make wish.
And Eric arrives at the actual location of the house and enters alone, but finds like the bodies have decomposed a little bit, like you can tell, but he gets all the way down to the basement like bathroom room and then is attacked by Amanda, who essentially puts him in a first movie game situation and closes the door on his ass. And that concludes our first game. We also find out after Amanda closes the door on his ass that John is outside in Eric's van. He's still living at this moment. And his son is safe and sound in Jigsaw's safe back at the factory.
Yeah.
It has been the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
How long is that?
At least 2 hours because they watched that play out, but I don't think you really know how long he's been in there since then because the bodies have decomposed a little bit in the house. So, like...
Fun fact of the episode, there were 120,000 syringes in the pit, give or take.
Oh, that's an awful fact after the knowledge you've given us. It's a lot of rubber tips.
I'll show you
the furnace scene used real fire, and the stuntman was covered in fire-resistant gel.
That's good. That's good. Before fake fire, huh? Why did they just use fake fire? Just like cold fire. What? Why are you looking at me like that? Haven't you ever used cold fire?
I'm trying to recall a quote to make a joke.
Here's a good thing, good funny thing to say. Tobin Bell has said Saw 2 is his personal favorite one, as it's the one that had the most Jigsaw, especially after he spent most of the first movie lying on the floor.
That's cute. I figured out my fire quote.
Okay, I'll go.